So, welcome all, and it's a pleasure for me to welcome the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, to Sweden, and particularly to Harpsund. I'm very happy to have you here. And our countries have strong ties, and I value our cooperation and close relations. And there is a mutual desire to deepen our cooperation, not at least on foreign security and defense policy, but also on trade and research, just to name a few areas. And in times of crisis, cooperation becomes even more important, and this applies not least for our international defense partnerships. And Sweden's partnerships with the UK and with NATO have been crucial during these exceptional times. And I greatly appreciate the strong support your government has expressed for our security and our right to make our own security policy choices. And today, we are taking another step to strengthening our bilateral defense and security cooperation at the strategic level. And I'm very happy that you have come here today for the signing of our bilateral political declaration of solidarity. And the Prime Minister and I have agreed to face challenges in peace, crisis, and conflict together. And if either country should suffer a disaster or an attack, the United Kingdom and Sweden will assist each other in a variety of ways. The support will be given on request from the affected country and may include military resources. The declaration serves a crucial purpose regardless of the choices Sweden will make in terms of our security policy in the future. And President Putin thought he could cause division, but he has achieved the opposite. We stand here today, more united than ever, and with the ambition of strengthening our bonds even more. And the Russian aggression against Ukraine has been met with incredible bravery from the Ukrainians and the Ukrainian leaders, but also by a unanimous condemnation and firm response from the entire transatlantic community and beyond. And I look forward to continuing our close cooperation and our bilateral relations, but also on robust actions to put pressure on Russia and in support of Ukraine. So please, Boris, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Prime Minister Andersson. Thank you, Magdalena. And thank you for having me your absolutely beautiful Harpsund retreat. Breathtaking and great to be back in Sweden and great to see you again. This week, many of us have been paying tribute to the brave men and women who secured victory and peace in Europe 77 years ago. And so it's a sad irony that we've been forced to discuss how best to fortify our shared defences against the empty conceit of a 21st century tyrant. When Europe celebrated VE Day in 1945, a victory that was, of course, in no small part ensured by the heroism of the Russian people, we hoped that peace on our continent would endure. Well, Putin's bloodthirsty campaign against a sovereign nation has put an end to that hope. And we face a new reality, but one that we face together. Throughout this conflict, our Nordic partners have been leading international support, not just for Ukraine, but also for European security. From sending defensive weapons and equipment to bringing together international partners and standing shoulder to shoulder with us in the UN, the Human Rights Council, the ICC, the International Criminal Court. The war in Ukraine is forcing us all to make difficult decisions. But sovereign nations must be free to make those decisions without fear or influence or threat of retaliation. So I'm very pleased today with you, Prime Minister Andersson, to sign this Mutual Security Assurances Declaration. It's an agreement that brings our two countries even closer together. It will allow us to share more intelligence, bolster our military exercises, and further our joint development of technology. The many carcasses of Russian tanks that now litter the fields and streets of Ukraine, thanks to Swedish developed and British built NLAWs, certainly speak to how effective that cooperation can be. But most importantly, this is an agreement that enshrines the values that both Sweden and the UK hold dear, and which we will not hesitate to defend. And as you put it so well, Magdalena, when we were out on the lake, we are now literally and metaphorically in the same boat. Thank you all very much. I think we're going to go to the media now.
Good afternoon, James Landale, BBC. Prime Minister Johnson first. Can you spell out very precisely for us what this mutual security agreement actually means of practice? If Russia were to attack Sweden, what would the UK do? And secondly, if I may, is now really the time to have a fight with European allies over the Northern Ireland Protocol at the height of this crisis? And Prime Minister Anderson, if I may, can you give us your assessment of the threat against your country from Russia, and what response you might expect from Moscow if Sweden were to apply to join the NATO military alliance?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, James. First of all, let's be clear that the friendship and the relationship between Britain and Sweden is decades old, and what we're saying and doing now is, in some ways, no more than a statement of the obvious, that two liberal democracies faced with an attack upon one of the other would want to come to each other's support. And whether it's in the event of a disaster or a military attack, what we're saying today is that upon request from the other party, we would come to the other party's assistance. And it's vital to state that, I think, now ever more important to state that now in the grim circumstances in which we find ourselves with the Russian attack on Ukraine. But it's also, I think, an important step forward, because this is an agreement on which we together intend to build, whether it's in sharing intelligence or working together to combat cyber attacks, whether it's working together in defence procurement or doing more joint exercises together. We're in the JEF, in the Joint Expeditionary Force, or any other forum. Sweden and the UK intend to do much more together, and I think the NLAW missile system really incarnates the kind of closeness that we see in our relationship, and that's what this is intended to underpin. It's the foundation stone, I believe, for an important development in our relationship. And on the protocol, you've all heard me say this many times. The most important agreement is the 25-year-old Belfast Good Friday Agreement. That is crucial for the stability of our country, of the UK, of Northern Ireland, and that means that things have got to command cross-community support. Plainly, the Northern Ireland Protocol fails to do that, and we need to sort it out.
When it comes to threats from Russia, I mean, the tensions in this part of Europe and around the Baltic Sea has increased during the last years, given Russia's aggression towards Ukraine, also before the 24th of February, also the military buildup of Russia, and also a more aggressive rhetoric from Russia. And of course, after the 24th of February, tensions are even stronger or more difficult than before. And of course, looking at the Russian military forces right now, they are rather occupied in Ukraine. If Sweden decides to send in an application to join NATO, Russia have said that they will respond, but then exactly how they will respond is unclear. They have said that they will increase their military presence in this region if Sweden and or Finland sends in an application.
Hello, my name is Ulf Ambreus Bonnevie from Swedish television. Mr. Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the question here in Sweden is, what kind of aid can we expect if we were to be attacked in any way during the transition process until a full membership in NATO? Can you be a little bit more concrete on what type of aid you will be sending, if so? Will you send troops to Sweden, for instance? And to Magdalena Andersson, how safe can we feel today compared to yesterday after this agreement that you signed today? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I think the declaration really makes it clear. It's upon request of of Sweden. The UK will, of course, provide assistance. But what matters primarily is what Sweden decides to request. Or what we're saying is that we are long-standing friends of Sweden. We're massive partners and supporters of Sweden. We share the same ideals, the same values. Sometimes things should go without saying, but they're worth saying. It's worth emphasizing that if Sweden were attacked and looked to us for help and support, then we would provide it. But it's up to Sweden to make the request and to spell out exactly what support is requested.
So are we safer with this declaration? Yes, we are. Of course, this means something, and this is important, whatever security policy choice that we will make in Sweden. If we want to join NATO, if we decide to keep outside NATO, this is an important joint declaration. But what is maybe even more important, is the fact that the Prime Minister is so engaged in the security of the northern part of Europe, and you have taken such an active role in this area, and we are very grateful for that. And that also that you're so clear that we share the same values and we stand together.
Good afternoon, Nina Lloyd from the Press Association. Firstly, a question for both Prime Minister Johnson and Prime Minister Andersson. Will this declaration help Sweden, should it decide to apply to NATO in the period after application but before accession, so-called grey zone, and how? And secondly, Prime Minister Johnson, the leader of the opposition, has said this week he would do the right thing and resign if he's fined over allegations of lockdown rule breaking. Do you think that's the right thing to do? And are you acting dishonourably by staying in number 10?
Well, can I just say first on your question about Sweden and Sweden's security, there's a separate conversation going on here in Sweden, which I don't want to get into. It's a matter for Sweden. But what we're saying is, and about Sweden's future relationship with NATO, that's a matter for Sweden. But what we are saying emphatically is that in the event of a disaster or the event of an attack upon Sweden, then the UK would come to the assistance of Sweden with whatever Sweden requested. And we hope that that's a useful and important thing to say. And it's certainly, we regard it in the UK as important for us that Sweden is saying the same thing to us. And this is a mutual agreement that I think is an important stepping stone, paving stone, as I said, for developing our relations in the future. And on your second question, I think we're trying to move beyond all that, and I think we're trying to focus on the issues that really matter, not least the war in Ukraine.
I think as I said, I think this declaration is important, whatever security policy choice Sweden will make for the future. But of course, we are right now exploring different options, and there are also discussions in Parliament between the government and all political parties in Parliament. And of course, we are exploring all possible options, and NATO is one of them that is on the table. And during this process, we have therefore had discussions with several countries on how they see this grey period from a potential application until we're fully members. And there we've got reassurances from several countries. I'm here with Boris Johnson today. I had a press conference with Olaf Scholz last week, and I also had our foreign minister in Washington last week.
TV4. Mr. Boris Johnson, how strong is this declaration of solidarity compared to NATO's Article 5? Would you, for example, assist Sweden with nuclear weapons in the case of war? And what have Sweden in turn promised the UK for this declaration? Will this declaration hold even if we do not join NATO, for example? Or
Yeah,
do we promise
well,
something else?
Yeah, I think that's the really good question, because I think that in a way this declaration is something that is about the UK and Sweden standing together, affirming our friendship and our partnership and our willingness to come to each other's defence and support. That's what it is. I think there's a separate issue about NATO, which I think Sweden is going to be addressing in the course of the next few days. That's not for me to comment upon, except of course to say that I'm sure the UK will support whatever course of action Sweden decides to embark upon, and we'll be as useful and supportive as we can. This is, I think, this is about our joint decision to show that we will support and defend each other. Now, when it comes to our deterrent, our nuclear deterrent, that's something we don't generally comment upon. But what I've made clear is that it's up to either party to make a request, and we take it very seriously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.